Hello and welcome to the Bald Ambition Podcast. I'm your still very bald host, Mookie Spitz, and I've got a bald guest who's also got tons of ambition. And I can't wait to introduce you to Mr. Kelvin Abrams. Welcome aboard, Kelvin.
Thanks for having me, Mookie. And yes, I am bald too.
Nice. I say we got the same barber. I think
We had
being
the same
bald
barber.
is beautiful. I
Yes.
think after Michael Jordan, I think it's cool to be bald.
Yes.
And Mike Tyson to a certain extent. I think
Good old Mike Tyson.
made it sexy. And I think that's a great way to start our conversation, which is I remember reading Mike saying that in order to be successful in life, it doesn't matter what you do. You're a championship boxer, you got your own business, anything that you do, you got to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. And Mike would know. He's taking hits, right?
Absolutely.
And getting a flavor for how you do what you do and checking out your book. Would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners? Tell us a little bit about how you're making that uncomfortable feeling comfortable for people to be all they can be.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to talk about my book. My book is called Get Uncomfortable or Change Course, Understanding What It Takes to Be an Entrepreneur. And so I wrote the book just because, like Mike Tyson quoted, is that you have to be used to and comfortable with being uncomfortable as an entrepreneur. And it's so funny, Mookie. In my book, I have a quote, or I talk about a situation where I use an example of Mike Tyson getting very comfortable with being the champion of the world. And then here comes this guy, Buster Douglas, had nothing to lose whatsoever. And Mike Tyson went in there comfortable thinking, hey, I'm the best, I'm the baddest. And then Buster Douglas proved to him that he was willing to be uncomfortable, and he got the job done. And so, yes, you got to be very
comfortable. Example, Mike didn't follow his own future advice.
He didn't follow his own. Maybe that's when he came up with the advice.
Maybe that's how the idea struck him, right?
Right. And please, Mike, don't come after me.
Right. Now Mike's gonna sue our man.
Right. Yeah.
In all seriousness, I think it's good advice. Mike learned it the hard way. And
exactly.
That kind of the centerpiece because it's the title of the show. Assuming hinges.
So I knew I was going to write a book when I was 18 years old. I just didn't know what it was going to be about. I always knew I had something inside of me, a story to tell. I had a normal childhood growing up, but towards the end, my junior and senior year, it was a little difficult for the family in difficult times. My dad had started a business. And so, I felt firsthand, I understood how business affects family because it affected our family drastically. I mean, there were times when we had the lights cut off. There were times when the electric bill didn't get paid, the oil in the furnace, things like that. No food in the refrigerator. So, and that was my dad starting a business. So at a very young age, I kind of knew what it would take to start a business. And I was used to being uncomfortable because of the fact that I was forced to be uncomfortable. Not that I wanted to be, I wanted to take nothing for granted, right? And then so kind of throughout college, I've been uncomfortable many times throughout college. My doing, that is, partying too much, having to retake classes, things like that, working 3 and 4 jobs, having to pay my bills, things like that, so I'm used to being uncomfortable. And one of the things I talk about is failure. And I'm used to failing. I've failed throughout my life, whether it be in sports, relationships, failing quizzes, failing classes, so I'm used to failure, and failure doesn't scare me. If anything, failure actually helps me, and failure gives me motivation and determination to, overcome my fears, overcome my issues and problems.
Yeah, I think that's a great context because I think a lot of folks, when they're starting out, and especially when they're starting a new venture, tacitly assume that it could or should be easier than it actually is. And there's always obstacles to any kind of disruption, any kind of change. And any kind of goal is going to have things that get in your way. And I think as a culture, Americans in particular, we're kind of spoiled. We're used to having quality of life. We're used to things coming our way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we really have to bust ass and you have to do it, then you need grit And it sounds to me like two things. You're an advocate of grit, which is don't give up, keep
Absolutely.
fighting the good fight.
Absolutely.
Expect that conflict. And you bring up a great point too, which I've heard from many of my guests too, which is embrace failure. It's not like
Embrace it.
failure is an indication that you suck. Failure is an indication that you're learning. You
Yes.
can't learn, and you don't
Yes.
learn much from just
Right.
winning right out of the gate.
No, you don't. I mean, if you look at all the great athletes out there, whether it be Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, Wayne Gretzky, you name it, they've all failed. And Michael Jordan, for example, didn't make his high school basketball team. I think he didn't make it. He was kicked off the team and came back the next year, 6 inches taller and
Right.
just was a wrecking force. You know what I mean? So that's an example. Tiger Woods, he failed a lot. His dad, intentionally made him fail to get him better. So yeah, failure equals success. And even Michael Jordan has a famous quote. Don't know exactly how it goes, but it's something to the effect of, I've lost 300 games. I've missed 3,000 shots. I've been entrusted with the winning shot, in X amount of games. And I failed, and failed. That is why I succeed. So, I mean, that's it right there.
Yeah, and then what do you think motivates people? Because another great Mike Tyson quote is everyone's got a plan until they're punched in the face.
Until they're punched in the face.
Yeah, and life is hard. On the one hand, we're spoiled and entitled brats. We call each other names on social media, and we've created this big mess for ourselves for the most part, right? But on the other, it's like we know it's difficult. We know that there are lots of obstacles. What kind of advice do you give folks to keep that faith, to stay motivated? Because I think that that's probably at the heart of it, right? Like you
It
need
is.
some kind of vision that you're going for, because otherwise you're just paying attention to everything in your way, and it's easy to get discouraged.
Yeah, well, you hit it in the head, vision. So I have a vision board. I have a vision pad that I write stuff in. And so it's like you have to create your roadmap, and you have to look at your roadmap and review that roadmap often. That way you can stay the course. But it's very hard. It's a long road, and it's often a dark road. And there are many nights, many a times when I have sat and cried. There are many a times when I've been wanting to give up, and just want to forget about it. There are many nights when I sat and got drunk and miserable because I was just unhappy and depressed, right? But the next day you get up and you realize that everybody has setbacks, and you get up the next day and you realize it's just a setback. And what I usually do sometimes is I'll read motivational quotes. I'll read motivational books or listen to motivational books on what are these my thing on my tablet. I don't know what it's called right now, but I'll listen to it on my tablet. I read books. David Goggins is one of them. Love David Goggins. His book, You Can't Hurt Me. Love it. So I read books like that. People that have had challenges in their life that have overcome them. And that's exactly what I do. And I listen to inspirational music as well, too. So when I need to get up, I pray, I listen to inspirational music, and I just kind of get up.
Tell me a little bit about relationships, like human relationships. And by that, I mean, finding inspiration in quotes, in books, in meditation, in getting drunk and being sad. These are all helpful. They're like a personal catharsis. But what I found in life, one of the most challenging things is partnership, collaboration. No man is an island. No woman is an island. You can't do it by yourself. What kind of component is there? What kind of advice do you give your clients and your readers about really finding people who believe in you, that you could rely on, and arguably most importantly, that you could trust as being part of that show? Does that factor into the mix?
Absolutely. Mookie, that's a great question, because I have a story for that. I had friends, and when I first started my business, I've been in business now 17 years. And when I first started my business, I had friends and family who would complain to me saying, why are you paying this person to do it? I can do it for free. I can help you out here, this, and that, right? And one thing I learned from the very beginning from my banker, who I still have a great relationship with today, is never trust your family and friends. It's not that they're not trying to help you. They are trying to help you, but they're going to tell you what they want you to hear. not what you need to hear.
Right.
So from the very beginning, I had professional team around me. And my philosophy has always been that I'm going to hire a marketing specialist because that's what they do 80 hours a week or 80 hours a pay period or 40 hours a week.
Right.
I'm going to hire a professional bookkeeper, not my brother, because the bookkeeper does it 40 hours a week. This is what they went to school for. Sure, you got to pay a little bit more money, but in the end, that person has your six. Where your family will be like, oh, well, it was a mistake. It was free. So, oh, well, where it's like your CPA, your bookkeeper, your marketing guy, your lawyer, your banker, they all got your six. And now when you are in trouble, they're there to protect you. So that's why I always tell people.
100%. I think it even goes further than just expertise, because when you have friends and family and then they get involved in your stuff, then it's emotional, and then people get jealous. It's almost like if you're doing too well, then you're shining bright. It casts a shadow on them, and then they got all sorts of opinions, and your interest isn't necessarily their interest, right? There's all that crazy emotional stuff. If you pay somebody, it's a job.
It's
and
a job.
They just do what they got to do. They help you, and then that's it.
That's it.
And there's no feeling of obligation. Like, check this out. Give me your opinion. Spend time on something that's important to me. That's automatically going to create problems for people, right? Which is
it will. And that's why when I consult, I don't consult with my family and friends, because I consult with a lot of people before I make a decision. I usually consult with people on my team, professional team, and I have a business mentor. Really nice guy, and I tell everybody, I encourage everybody to get a mentor. And my mentor is someone who has walked in my shoes, someone who is on the verge of filing bankruptcy for his entire family, but finally his dream came through one day, and now he's a self-made man, and he's 75 years old, still grinding every day, just grinding and grinding.
Someone with lived experience who's been through it. They're not just a pundit or a concept guy. They don't just have opinions.
Right. Or book knowledge,
The Yoda isn't just teaching at the Jedi Academy. Yoda was out there kicking ass,
knocking down doors. You know what I mean? And so, so that's what I do. And I usually consult. We go to lunch sometimes once a week, twice a week. And sometimes we just talk on the phone, and we joke with ourselves. And I put it in my book. We call it going to the boardroom. We have a board meeting, right? So we sit there, and sometimes I meditate and look out the window. I'll have a cigar while I'm sitting there just thinking and meditating and just decompressing, if you will, right? And then sometimes, I just call him up and I vent. And, what we talk about is just, he brings me off of the cliff, because every entrepreneur is on the cliff. Every single day you're on the edge, you're on a cliff, you're walking on eggshells, because every single day is a different day as an entrepreneur. It's never the same. And so you have these challenging days, and I reach out to my mentor often, and he takes me off of that cliff. Not literally, but he takes me off that emotional roller coaster that I'm going through. And he says, hey, man, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Keep going. And so that's the encouragement that I tell people. And that's the encouragement I think that entrepreneurs need, whether it be a new entrepreneur, someone who's been 15 years in the business, 30 years in the business. I think every entrepreneur still needs to have that business coach or that mentor that continues to motivate them and continues to tell them you're on track with your goal, continue moving forward.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful. And that goes into the human relationship side. So on the one hand, just to summarize, it's like kind of kick butt and take names, which is just, if you believe in it, go for it. So you need to work hard. You need to focus. Don't rely on friends and family. Even for advice, just keep it separate. Be serious about your business. Do your business, and then have your friends and family. Keep that stuff apart. That's another best practice that I'm hearing from you. And absolutely. I love this idea of fail. Go ahead and fail. Fail fast, fail often. Learn from your mistakes. And don't get discouraged, because that's actually a sign you're making progress, because you're out there taking risks and you're doing stuff. And when you create relationships in terms of partnerships, on the one hand, keep your team professional, have everybody do what they're good at, and then find yourself a Yoda or a mentor, someone who's walked in that path, and someone with genuine lived experiences who can pass that to you, who can not only guide you, but also emotionally empathize with you, provide
Yeah.
some of that relatability and catharsis, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important. And family and friends, they have their role as well too. Like you said, they have their role. And sometimes you can bring them into business and talk to them about things, but jealousy, envy, all of these things do come about.
Yeah,
And I don't think it's intentional. I just think I think they have such good hopes and feelings and emotions that they want to help you and protect you, if you will, from certain things. But I always believe that as an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to fail. And I have no problems with failing. And the thing is I say this often to people when I do talking engagements at the local library. I usually tell people that when I die and go to heaven, I don't want God to say to me or whoever to say to me, "Hey man, how come you didn't try? Hey man, why did you give up?" I'd rather go to heaven or go wherever I go, knowing that if I failed, I failed. But at least when I meet the maker's going to say, "Job well done." The maker's not going to
absolutely.
say, "You had one life. Why didn't you do this?"
Right,
And
right, right. I
what's the
think
worst
this
that
is,
can happen, right? You fail. What's the worst? I've been homeless before. I've lived in my car before at college. I've eaten a can of tuna fish for a whole day's meal, drank water to fill up. I mean, what's the problem? What's failure? Failure is nothing. You just start back over again.
yeah, I love that perspective is important. And if you are going to take your dying breath, I'm just guessing that it's a lot easier to exhale knowing that you gave it your best shot, regardless, because we're all going to die, right? And you
Right.
can't take it with you, whether you
Can't
got a
take it with
billion
you.
dollars or nothing. You leave it all here. But your dying breath, if you can say to yourself, I gave it my best shot. I had a vision of what I wanted,
Mhm.
and then I went for it, regardless of what happens, as opposed to the other scenario where, you know what, I did the safer thing and I
Right.
got to chill out.
Right.
But wouldn't it have been great if I
Right.
would have actually given it a shot? That's
Yeah.
kind of sad,
It,
right?
it is, it's like you either leave it on the field, like the football players, they leave it on the field. They leave everything on the field. They leave it on the court, in the basketball court, right? And the thing is you can't, like you said, you can't take it with you, man. And,
Yeah,
and it's like, I would rather die trying than not trying. And
yeah,
that's the one thing I always say that I believe, my humble opinion is entrepreneurs have this spirit that I have and that you have, where I would rather leave it all on the field and fail
mm,
than not try at all, number one, or half-ass it, number two, because you're always going to say what? I wish I would have done this. And there's this old phrase, should have, would have, could have. If a frog had wings, he wouldn't bump his ass every time he jumped, right?
right,
I'm not going to be a should have, would have kind of person. I'm a jump.
yeah. And also, I think as an extension to that is like kind of stick to what you know. And I'm curious about your thoughts around this because having an entrepreneurial attitude is sexy. A lot of people might think that they're go getters, even if they are. But one problem I've seen in certain people who might even be overexcited is they want to do everything and they
That's
get
me.
outside of their comfort zone. You know what I
That's
mean?
me.
Like that's a good idea. I'm going to try that. I've just found in my life that it's generally helpful if I know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yes, but Mookie,
That's a
but
good
here's what I
place to
always
start.
yeah, but hold on, Mookie. This is what I always say is that nothing ventured, nothing gained, right?
That's for
So
sure.
it's
You got
like,
to push the envelope a little bit.
right, you got to
Right.
push it, right? And so I love starting businesses and getting into new things. Like, and here's an example. I'm sitting in my coffee shop, it's K9 and Coffee here.
Right.
I started the coffee shop out of a necessity, right? I have a doggy daycare business. This area here was my grooming area, right? But I
Yeah.
got tired of dealing with groomers, so I said, what can I do? And at the time, 11 years ago, coffee was the number 2 traded commodity on the stock market, right? It probably still is to this day. I don't know. And so I looked around the neighborhood here and I'm like, organic coffee shop, right? So that's what I did. But the funny part is, I don't drink coffee, don't like coffee, never been a barista, don't know how to be a barista.
Right.
But
Right.
you know
Right.
what? I jumped in full force, learned how to be a barista, had to start drinking coffee so I would know if it's good or bad,
Right.
had to start drinking espresso shots and things like that. 11 years later, here I am, right? And
Oh,
so
good.
another
That's
story I
cool.
like to say
That's
is that
cool.
you have to take advantage of every opportunity that comes to you, right? Today, people want to make sure that an opportunity has everything, the bells and the whistles and this and that. Opportunities, as you and I both know, come in ugly little packages, holes in them, beat up and bent and crooked. And it's what you make of that ugly opportunity. It's not going to come to you perfect. And that's what kids today think, that it's going to come to you perfect. No, it's going to be ugly with holes in it and dirty and smelly. And it's what you make of that opportunity. And that's what I've been able to do throughout the 17 years. I've been taking advantage of a lot of opportunities throughout the 17 years, which brings me here today.
That's wonderful. However, this isn't a pushback, more like a request for clarification. So you had your doggy grooming business, right? So then it's a business though. So you deal with customers. You provide a service. You have a retail brick and mortar location.
Yes.
So now you're going to evolve that line into a coffee shop. So you're already a business owner. You understand the books. You understand the audience or a audience catering to it. You do some marketing. You pay the rent. The list is on and on about all the hurdles you got to jump through to do what you did. So making the move, this is what I mean by kind of doing what you're doing. So it's not like you're starting a rocket company or being an engineer per se. You're a business owner providing a service. So that you need some kind of foundation to move forward from. And that's part of the learning process too. Because I think, not to say the kids of today, but the kids of today are kind of entitled and spoiled, and they expect everything to be perfect and easy instantly. But another missing component is just learning the basics.
Yes.
I think. And some of those basics are boring, hard.
But it's the basics.
Right.
And that's what I say. You have to learn the basics. Like you just mentioned, it doesn't matter whether you're a rocket scientist, a flower person, or a landscaper. The basics of business is the basics of business. Jeff Bezos at Amazon still does the basic business stuff every single day. Bill Gates, the basic business stuff every single day. And that's the core of understanding. But today, I think people want to jump past the basic because it's boring and jump to, oh, here's my business card. I have my own business. Hey, here's my business telephone number. Call me on my business telephone number. They think about all the glory, but they don't think about the grit.
Right. Tell me a little bit about that research or the discovery, like understand who your audience is. Emulate a successful business model, make it your own. What we've been talking abstract, which is awesome because it's about grit and inspiration and partnership. These are the conceptual foundations for being successful.
Yes.
Let's bring it down to earth just a little bit, and I'm sure you do it in your book too, to give folks kind of a highlight of your actual process or methodology. And if you could put it in a concrete example, that would be good too, which is, what are some of the typical obstacles that are in the way? How did you get over them? And what kind of best practices do you apply in your everyday life to just keep the train on the tracks and keep it going? Especially for younger listeners or listeners who are hoping to break out of, let's say, a more conventional mode and really be an entrepreneur, be somebody who's kind of making their own way.
Well, that's a mouthful there.
It's much, but let's bring it, maybe cite an example of how you took an idea and applied all of the great methodology that has proven successful overall for you over the last 17 years.
My doggy daycare business, I've had it for 17 years, right? And so when I first started my business, I wanted to do everything under the sun, right? But quickly, as I got started, I realized that you can't do everything all at once. You have to kind of evolve into that. And that's what I did, is I slowly evolved into things. So after about 5 years, I started doing pet sitting, dog walking, and taxi services for my dog business. And I actually started growing that. And the reason why I waited 5 years is because A, I was still a new entrepreneur and I was still learning the very basics of it, right? B, I started listening and hearing what my customers were asking for.
This is great.
Hearing what my customers wanted to have, right? And then I started answering the phone. And when people are like, do you do dog walking? No, we don't. Do you do grooming? No, we don't. Do you do pet sitting? No, we don't. And then it didn't take much for this old bald head of mine to kind of say, hey, man, wake up. Someone is sending you money that you
Yeah. It's
want.
like do you can do these things too. That's
Right.
great. So what I'm hearing is flexibility, staying
Oh,
open minded.
flexibility.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it didn't take much for me to say, okay, dude, every time you hang up the phone, you're sending business away. Right. And so I
Right.
quickly
Right.
said, okay, let me figure this out. And then what I did was really quick. You always have to do a market analysis. So I kind of did a market analysis of what was in the area, what dog walking services, pet sitting, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of just expanded from there, got a vehicle, started doing dog walking. And the first year out, I think I probably made somewhere around 9 or 10,000 by myself. And then the preceding years after that, I mean, we were talking 15, 18, $20,000 just in pet sitting and dog walking alone by myself. So it was a good chunk of money and it paid off. It paid for a vehicle that I got. I got a vehicle that had my, Tiki's Playhouse all over it. It paid for that. It paid for clothing and outfit. So it actually worked, and the thing is that was an opportunity that I listened to the market. I listened to what people were saying when they were calling. As I was hanging up the phone, it was getting registered somewhere in this big head of mine.
Right.
It was
Right.
getting registered. And eventually I took advantage of it, so I would think that would be the best story of, how, I would like to say how I took advantage of an opportunity and how the opportunity kind of was knocking the whole time, but I
Yeah.
wasn't open for it. I wasn't open and ready for it. And then when I was ready for it, it just kind of knocked me in the head and it exploded from there.
That's great, and I think those best practices are awesome. So again, just to summarize for folks, it's like it's a crawl, walk, run kind of initiation into
Yes,
whatever you do. And again,
absolutely.
as counterexample, folks think that, and I think you brought it up earlier, you could just do everything immediately because you're so awesome.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what everyone's done before. You got the idea. When you're a kid, you always think you're the first person experiencing things for the first time in all of
Yeah.
humanity. As you get older, you realize I'm not as special as I
Yeah.
thought I was.
Yeah.
And the same rules apply to business, which is, just open up the doors, try it, get going, and learn, listen.
Right.
And in this sense, you heard that there were new opportunities. People were asking for services that you didn't offer. Extend what you offer into doing that as well, and then
Right.
learn as you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where it just comes back that you have to be open and willing to listen, open and willing to hear people, open and willing to take advice and suggestions. And I do consult with a lot of people, because the old saying is that it takes a village to raise a family. And so a lot of times when I make my business decisions, I know when to consult with people when my stomach starts bubbling and I'm starting to get restless. And that tells me something's going on here and I got to consult. And so I consult with the people that I trust and I take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that, and I kind of formulate my own opinion and go from there because I ultimately, at the end of the day, it's always up to me. They can't help you. They can just give you advice. And so I pick from a little bit here and there, and then I go with it. You just got to trust your gut sometimes, but it's a calculated risk that you take. It's not
Right.
just a risk you just jump. It is a calculated risk, and people may see it as, oh, he's always risking this. He's always doing, and it's like, no, no, no. It's a calculated risk, and I'm willing to go at the crap table and throw the dice. Looking for a 7 and 11 all the time. But you know what? That's what we entrepreneurs do. We take calculated risk. We throw the dice, hoping for a 7 and 11. And if we crap out, and we try it again.
Yeah, I like what you're saying though about gut, because I think as counterpoint, a lot of people are up here, which is they think they know or they think that they're figuring it out. And I think gut has two extensions. The one is trusting your own instincts, of which a majority of the way we perceive the world is just we're not even like aware of it. We get signals, right?
Right.
And we like our own kind of signs. And also, if you're here, you're in a sense paying better attention,
Mhm.
right? You're listening better, and you're on a heightened sense of sensitivity,
Mhm.
as opposed to your brain just kind of calling the shots. Because you're not open to possibilities. If you're coming
Right.
from here, you're noticing more things.
Right. But you know what? It took me a little while to get there. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
just like
I'm like
everyone
that.
else.
I'm in my head most of the time, and
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah.
what I need to keep reminding myself is the world is not just as I perceive it. The world is way more complicated
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
And by getting
Exactly.
more here and trusting my gut, the biggest mistakes I made in life, I just didn't trust my gut. I knew
Right.
something didn't feel right.
Right.
Well, my head was telling me that this would probably be beneficial, or this
Yeah.
is something that I liked, or this is something I needed to fight for.
Yep.
When here it was like, no, dude, no,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Right. Yeah. Let me tell you, I've had that. And unfortunately, it's sometimes when you try to go out of your way to help people, and there's this feeling that you're like, I shouldn't do this. But then you're listening to your heart. You're like, well, everybody deserves a second. Well, I'm just trying to help. You want to do the good thing in your heart, but in your belly, you're like, maybe I shouldn't be trying to help this
Right.
person out. And that's where I usually get myself in trouble, is I'm too much of a good guy trying to help others. Because I look at it this way, pay it forward. I've had a lot of help. People have helped me to get to where I am today. And when I hear people talk about what they want to do, I encourage them and I try to help them as much as possible. But there's times that my gut says don't do it, but I still go with my heart and I go, I'm going to help this person because someone helped me, and you end up getting burned. So that's the
Yeah,
difficult part for
absolutely.
me. It's tough.
And how do you approach marketing and communication and business development and selling? Because this is another extension of what we talk a lot about here on the podcast, which is, you create your business along the lines of what you're describing really so well, especially so emotionally, right? The lived experience of starting a business. But then there's like, how do you communicate what you're offering to the world? And how do you build awareness about your business, your company, your brand? What kind of things do you do to let people know, I'm here? And then how do you get people excited about what you do? How do you make yourself different? How do you get noticed? How do you spread the word about what you do and why you do it and how it's not like the other guys?
I would say diversify. One word, diversify,
Okay.
right? So don't just focus all on social media. That's what everyone's focusing all on, social media.
Right.
You got to do grassroots stuff like knocking on doors, putting
Yes.
postcards on people's doors,
Right.
having a billboard sign, doing the old school print paper, black and white printing, getting in publications, doing podcasts, things like that. Talking to many people, talking to your community. A lot of people say joining chambers of commerce. And I've found that, sure, that's a way of networking and so forth. But for me personally, it hasn't been beneficial, because a lot of times when you go to these chamber events, you got to pay money to go to all these events. And what do young entrepreneurs not have? Money. And then not only that, when you go there to these events, everyone's handing you the same business cards, and
Yeah,
they're
it's
all
like
trying to do the same thing.
it's B2B, but my model might not be B2B, it's B2C. That's
Right.
what I never understood that. It's like,
Right.
I'm going to the Chamber of Commerce, and to your point, I'm gonna pay, $80 for a dinner, and I'm gonna sit there with other people who do the same kind of situation I'm in.
Right.
I'm
What's
looking
the
for
point?
customers, they're looking for customers, and then
Right.
we're hanging out.
Right.
Why?
And you're hanging out talking about your misery, right?
Yeah, oh, it's rough out there. I mean,
Yeah.
so
So-
what?
So what I do, good question is, how do you get business and how do you do this? How do you diversify? I talk to my clients, right? Your clients will tell you everything you need to know. So I talk to my clients, have a good relationship with my clients. You find out, here's a really good example to change the subject really fast. There are two clients of mine that were millionaires. One guy owned 45 Pizza Huts in the state of Maryland here. 45 Pizza Huts.
God bless him. I want to own 45 Pizza Huts.
You know what I mean? So, and then this other guy had 7 restaurants and had this kind of landscaping kind of business, right? Both multimillionaires, right?
Right.
Both of them gave me the same advice at different times, right? And I listened to them. And that advice is, every couple of years, you have to reinvent yourself. Now, that doesn't mean change business here, no. It means every couple of years, reinvent yourself. For example, I told you I started off doing my doggy daycare business. A couple of years later, what did I do? Added dog walking, pet sitting services, taxi services, right? So every couple of years, I did that, right? After that, what did I do? I came out with the first doggy ice cream truck in the state of Maryland, and that was very successful for a couple of years. After that, what did I do? I reinvented myself and came up with a coffee shop called K9 and Coffee. So that was actually starting another business, but I reinvented myself because it's connected with my doggy daycare business.
Yes,
All I
it's,
did
it's
was add the
like the
coffee.
line extension of that.
Right.
That
All I
goes
did was
back to what I was saying. Stick with what you got going on. Don't just
right,
pull it out of your ass. Right,
right. So the
right.
doggy ice cream truck, dogs. K9 and Coffee, dogs. Tiki's Playhouse, dogs. Right. So I'm sticking with what I know. Right.
Right.
And so the thing is I've learned that every couple of years you have to reinvent yourself somehow. And it's just, I think you have to evolve. And if you stay in one place, there goes Mike Tyson. You stay in one place, you get too comfortable, right? And then as you get
I love that.
right,
Right.
and as you get comfortable, you can be in business 10, 15, 20 years. As you get comfortable, other people continuing to not get comfortable, right? And then you wonder why your business is stagnant and other people's business is growing. It's because you got so used to eating the caviar and all of this stuff, and you forgot that every couple of years you need to do something different. And that's basically what I've been doing. And I think, God willing, I think that's how I've been able to be here 17 years and have multiple businesses at one time.
That's terrific advice. And it gets to the heart of the difference really between the entrepreneur or the artist even and someone who's just like, I just want it easy.
Mhm.
Okay. I just let me punch the clock. And then me as that guy.
Right.
I'm like, I sit over there and I do that.
Right.
And it's comfortable.
Right.
Every week, every couple weeks I get my check.
Right.
Everyone knows me as being this thing. This is who I am. And everything's going to be cool. Now, the reason that's problematic is because our society has changed too. In a sense, everyone has to be an entrepreneur because everything is changing so damn fast, right?
Yeah.
So you're one up on it if they follow your advice, which is keep frisky. You know what I mean? If you're sitting on your ass at that desk and punching that clock 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, you're comfortable. You do that. But you know what? Even if you don't want to, you're going to have to change that desk, sit somewhere else. You're going to lose your job. Right. You're going to get bored and lose your identity. The market is going to change out from under you. Yep. And you're a person. Don't you want to just change it up a little bit?
Yeah.
And what I like about your advice, too, is there's a price to be paid for everything. There's a price to be paid if you sit on your ass. But that's less of a price, or a bigger price in a way than if you change it up, you're willing to take the risk of the disruption. Be uncomfortable.
Be uncomfortable.
And
yeah.
you're going to get rewarded one way or another.
You will. And even if it's not financially or monetarily, you're going to be rewarded here.
Yes.
And the thing is like I said, when I go up there or if I go down there, wherever I go, I want that person to say, job well done. And that's all I want. Job well done. I don't need all the money in the world. It'd be nice to have Jeff Bezos' money, but I don't need that. Job well done.
Jeff Bezos is a great example, though, because he wrote that famous shareholder letter back in the 90s. And he basically said, you invest with me, but I'm telling you right now, you're not going to make any money for at least 10 years. And at that time, when they're going quarter to quarter, was crazy. Mm-hmm. But he set a precedent, too, that if you're going to change it up, you're entrepreneurial this way, to your exact point, don't expect to get rich quick. And don't even expect success necessarily. But one thing you will get for sure, and this is what I love about what you're saying, is you will get the self-satisfaction that you made your move, you took the risk, you became someone even better, and your whole life just got more interesting and dynamic as a result.
Absolutely.
That feels good. You know what I mean? It's like, I might be going broke. Maybe I'm building up more debt than I am making money, and there's no guarantee that this is going to work out. But even if it doesn't work out, it's already worked out because I wake up in the morning excited with even the idea that I'm doing it.
Exactly.
That's gold. That's
gold.
That's what a lot of people don't get. They're like, I'm not going to do that.
No.
Why would I do that? And
No,
I'm
I
kind of
get
like, why
excited.
not do that?
Right.
Well,
It's
how
exciting,
old do you need to be until
Right.
you
Yeah.
actually do what makes you happy?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's to me, I get a rush from it. It's kind of like, drug dealers get high and they get that really quick high. But it's like,
Yeah, the
for me, it's like
dopamine.
I get a
Right.
rush for it because it's like, it's exciting, it's challenging. It's like playing in the Super Bowl every day because you're like, oh man, I got to do it. You're dodging this, you're dodging
Yeah.
that. But it's excitement, right? And then the most rewarding thing for me is at the end of the day, when you're able to write a paycheck and give somebody a pay, you may not get a paycheck, but you're able to write and sign a paycheck and give somebody a paycheck, and you're able to provide for people. And it's
Yeah.
like to say that you provided for someone for 17 years is a big deal. And to say that I
Love
was
that. Right.
self-sustainable for 17 years, I took care of myself for 17 years. It's like nothing better in the world, and I can go
Yeah.
bankrupt tomorrow and I'm happy. Why? Because I
Yeah.
did it for 17 years.
Yeah. And you're giving back.
Giving back. And when I
like
meet the
that.
maker, when I meet that guy,
Right.
I'll know that I did everything I was supposed to do while I'm here on earth. And that is why this book came about, Get Uncomfortable or Change Course,
Yeah.
is because
If you're watching, you just saw the cover. And if you're listening, there it is. Get uncomfortable or change course. And either way, you're going to be uncomfortable.
right. Yeah, the book is going to make you uncomfortable because, quite
Right.
frankly, in the book, I tell you about all the ugly. I tell you
Yeah.
some good, but mostly ugly because I
Right.
joke around and I try to tell people, I want you to read my book and say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because I want you to realize you're going to miss holidays. You're going to miss birthdays. You're going to miss girlfriends, wives, children, dates. I can't tell you the last time I've been on a date. I haven't dated someone in like 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's like you're going to give up everything. A relation. I could be married by now, could have kids by now, but I'm not. I've missed movies. I've missed vacations. I used to golf. I got a brand new set of golf clubs that I think I used twice that have been sitting in the closet for 10 years. So you're going to miss out on all these things. But the thing is if you're in it for the long haul, like the stock market, you'll gain it all back tenfold. Right. And I'm in it for the long haul, like the stock market. It's going to come. My day is coming. It may not be here. It may not be 17 years. It may be at year 25.
It takes faith.
It takes faith. I have a cross. I wear my cross every day. I kiss my cross every day. I wake up and I give thanks to God every day. When I go to bed, I give thanks to God every day. In the middle of the night when I wake up and if I'm sleepless and restless, I pray to God and I give thanks to God every day. And I wake up and I do it all over again.
Yeah. I love this conversation because it's like bald and basic. Yeah. Because you can get into the theoretical all you want,
right?
But really, at the end of the day, and at the bottom line of the spreadsheet, you kind of need the cojones. You know what I mean? Whether you're a man or a woman, it don't matter. You need courage. You need determination. You need that vision, and even more than anything else, it's just the excitement of taking risks, trying something new, and not freaking out when you look at that latest credit card bill, when you're not freaking out, when you know that you owe more than you're worth because you're reinventing yourself. And that's a big reason people don't want to make that move. I'd rather be secure. I'd rather just do what I've been doing. Because who's going to do that? You got to be crazy.
You got to be crazy.
You got to be crazy.
I tell that to people every time. If you're not crazy, then, this isn't for you. Because you have to walk on that edge. I like to say this. You have to walk through the forest, a dark forest with no light ahead of you for as long as it takes. And there's this famous quote. I had to read this book by Robert Frost, or a poem by Robert Frost when I was at college. And the ending portion of the poem, or whatever it was at the time, was, I have miles to go before I sleep. And so when I read that in college years ago, that stuck with me. And so I always say that to people. I always say it to themselves. I have it on my wall. I have miles to go before I sleep. And what that means is before I sleep and I'm done for my life, I have miles to go. Miles to go. Even if I think I'm successful, I'm not successful because I still have 3 and 4 businesses, Mookie, that are up here that I have trademarks for already, that I have started business plans on already that are sitting up here. So the thing is I got miles to go, man, before I sleep. Miles to go. And I'm not afraid.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool, which is wanting to take that risk, live in that risk. Another great, and not so much a quote, but an observation I heard is if you decide to go down this path, which is reinvention, which is the creation of a new self or a new business, then anticipate losing, 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 and maybe if you stick to that path, even though there's no real light, maybe all of a sudden, boom, you're winning.
Just like that.
And then people think that that's really it, but that's really not the goal so much. It really is the journey more than the destination, which is I can't help but do that.
Right.
I'm not going to sit in that chair for another 5-10 years.
No,
I just can't. I was unhappy then. And the reason I was unhappy then is because I was sitting in that chair and I wasn't transforming myself and realizing my potential. Right.
Yeah, I could never go back to work for someone else. I mean, unless for some reason I had to, but I would find another type of business or another entrepreneur, something to get into because of the fact that it's not that I'm arrogant and I don't want to go work for someone else and I can do it better than someone else. No, it's I've gotten a taste of the challenge, so I liken myself to a professional athlete. When you get a taste of the Super Bowl, all you want is the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl, right? And so I got a taste of that Super Bowl, and 17 years later, I'm still working on that Super Bowl #1 ring. But you know what? I already see 3 rings coming down the road. So I have a taste of the Super Bowl, and I have a taste of that winning, and I'm not going to quit until I have, like Tom Brady, 7 rings. When I have 7 rings on my finger, that's when I'm going to quit.
Yeah. Yeah, and at one point I also want to make is when they're outside of you, and this goes full circle to the beginning of our conversation about friends, family, people who love you, care about you. Sometimes they're concerned because they judge themselves in their own life and their own definition of success differently than you do.
Correct.
Your definition of success is exactly what you're saying, which is I'm going for it.
Correct.
Sometimes I'm not even quite sure what the hell it is, but I'm going
for it.
And you're not going to stop. If I'm going for it, then I'm happy. And then I feel like I'm doing something.
Yep.
They see that from the outside and goes, where's the fucking money?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
But it's not about the money. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is about the money, of course, but it's not. It's the challenge. It's the adrenaline. It's like skydiving every day. The adrenaline that you get when you skydive. I've gone 5 times, and the adrenaline you get when you're rushing, your face is all like this here. It's that adrenaline that you have to feel every single day when you get up as an entrepreneur. If not, change course. Change course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of creativity, a lot of writing, podcasting. I was at LA Comic-Con this weekend, but it was seeing everyone laid out, parking the books, talking to people, networking, doing all that. And then, I'll get on a call too, and then somebody will have they're in their library, and you got all the books in the background. And I know that they're not doing shit with their creativity. And what you're saying, which is what I love so much, is can you just shut up already and do it?
And do it.
You know what I mean? It's like you are what you do at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And if you really want to go for it, then just go for it. It doesn't matter what it is.
Stop talking about it.
Doggy grooming, open up a coffee shop, be a writer, be a wingsuit base jumper.
Yeah.
Try to be that Red Bull guy. You think you got that, then go for it.
Yeah.
But whatever you do, it doesn't matter what you say. No. And it doesn't matter what you're thinking. You could plan until you die. But unless you actually put it into effect and are willing to take the risk, sweat it out, and realize your dream doesn't even have to come true. Because it's already come true because you're dreaming it.
Dreaming and you're living it and you're doing it.
I love that. I love that. And
Absolutely. I
it's what
usually,
you're about, which is just, I'm not Jeff Bezos, and I'm running my shop this way and I'm doing that, but I'm living the life.
yeah,
Just at least live the life,
yeah,
give yourself
exactly.
the decency of at least living the
Living
life that you love, whether or not, and especially because it's risky and might fuck you up.
Exactly. You have to be willing to jump. I always say that. You got to
Yeah,
be entrepreneurs jump off a cliff without a parachute, without a net,
right.
without someone down there waiting for us. We jump off the cliff and you know what? We figure it out on the way down and we land on our feet. That's
Wow.
what entrepreneurs do. We jump.
Awesome. I think that's the best way to close our conversation, which is encouraging people to just take the leap and
Jump.
deal with the fact that it's gonna mostly suck.
Right. It
That's what
will.
I love most about you're honest. You might go broke. You might just financially mess your act up. So
Yep.
what?
So
Just
what?
jump. Just do it.
So
Do it.
what?
Give
Jump.
it a
Do it.
try. It
Yeah.
feels good to try, right?
It does. It
Yeah.
does. It's
Yeah.
exciting to try. If you don't try, you're going to be miserable. And like I said, a should've, would've, could've. If a frog had wings, he wouldn't bump his ass every time he jumped, right?
That's
So
right.
I don't want to be a should've, would've. I should have done this. I could have done. That's not going to be me. I'm going to go
Right.
up to the man and say, I did everything I could while I was on this earth.
And some frogs, some of them actually do turn into princes. But it's never going to happen if if you don't go for it, right?
If you don't go for it, right?
Thanks, Kelvin. I love talking to you.
Thank
We're
you. I
going to have
appreciate
links
it.
in the podcast description and then for your book and anything else that you got going on as far as like consulting and talking to people. And then links to your businesses too. Help you spread the word even locally if you want to do that. Put all
Will
that
do.
there. And it's
Will
been a
do.
real joy talking to you. Thank you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
We
I
can
had
follow
class.
up in 6 months or a year, see how we're doing.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I would guarantee this though, Kelvin, because of this attitude that I think bald on bald we're sharing here, is that I'll put money, even money that I might not even have, that both of us are going to be smiling mofos because we're doing what we love.
Because we're still doing it.
Every damn
We're still
day.
doing it. Yep.
Yeah. Good
Yep.
for
We're
you.
still doing it. We're still
You're
doing it.
awesome. Thanks for joining us. Like, comment, share, folks. Bald ambition.
All the
Guys like
ambition.
Kelvin rocking it. And we will talk to you later. Thank you.